Story 1. I've worked at this mid-sized accounting firm for 6 years now. Started as a junior analyst right out of college and worked my way up to senior associate. It's a decent place to work, good benefits, reasonable hours most of the time, and management that generally treats employees well. The office culture is pretty relaxed, and people usually get along without much drama. Our break room has always been the heart of office social life. It's where people gather before meetings, eat lunch together, and take coffee breaks throughout the day. About 2 years ago, management invested in a really nice commercial-grade coffee machine to boost morale. This wasn't your basic office coffee maker, it was one of those fancy European machines that grinds beans fresh for each cup and has all sorts of customizable settings. The machine quickly became everyone's favorite office upgrade. You could adjust everything: strength, temperature, milk foam, even the grind size. Most people stuck with the default settings, but some of the coffee enthusiasts enjoyed experimenting with different combinations. It made genuinely great coffee, way better than the old pot we used to have. There's an unwritten rule that you don't mess with the main settings. If you want to customize your individual cup, that's fine, but you reset everything back to default when you're done. Common courtesy stuff. The machine even had a reset to default button that made this easy. Everything worked smoothly until about 3 months ago when our department hired someone new. She came from a larger corporation and seemed to think our laid-back office culture was unprofessional. From day one, she made comments about how things should be run properly and kept referencing how her previous company did things. Karen was particularly obsessed with the coffee situation. She complained that the default temperature wasn't hot enough and that people were making inferior coffee choices. Most of us just rolled our eyes and ignored her critiques. Last month, I was working late on a quarterly report when I decided to grab a coffee around 6 p.m. The office was mostly empty, except for a few people finishing up projects. When I got to the break room, the coffee machine was displaying an error message I'd never seen before. The screen read, "System overheated, service required," and none of the buttons would respond. I tried unplugging it and plugging it back in, but the same message appeared. The next morning, people started gathering around the broken machine looking confused and frustrated. Our office manager put up a sign saying the machine was out of order and they were calling for repairs. Office manager, does anyone know what happened to the coffee machine? Nobody had any idea. It was working fine when most people left Tuesday evening, and now it was completely dead. During the morning break, Karen made an announcement to the group gathered around the broken machine. "Karen, I adjusted the temperature settings yesterday because everyone knows coffee should be served at 180 degrees minimum. The default setting was nowhere near hot enough." Coworker, you changed the main settings. You're supposed to reset those after use. Karen, those settings were wrong to begin with. I fixed them permanently so everyone could have proper coffee. Me, did you check the maximum temperature rating for the machine? Karen, I have authority to make these decisions. At my previous company, I was responsible for all break room equipment. Office manager, you don't have authority over office equipment here, and if you change settings, that might have caused the malfunction. Karen, that machine should be able to handle proper coffee temperatures. If it can't, that's a manufacturing defect, not my fault. The repair technician arrived that afternoon and spent about an hour diagnosing the problem. His conclusion was pretty clear: someone had manually overridden the safety settings and forced the heating element to run at dangerous temperatures until it burned out. Technician, the internal components show heat damage consistent with prolonged operation above safe limits. Someone disabled multiple safety protocols. Office manager, is that something that could happen accidentally? Technician, no way. You have to deliberately access the administrative menu and override several warnings to get the system to run this hot. The repair estimate was $800, almost as much as buying a new machine. Management wasn't happy, especially since the machine was only 2 years old and should have lasted much longer. That's when our office manager decided to check the security cameras. We have cameras in common areas for theft prevention, and the break room is covered. The footage clearly showed Karen spending about 20 minutes on Tuesday evening messing with the coffee machine's settings menu. You could see her bypassing warning screens and deliberately overriding safety limits. When confronted with the video evidence, Karen tried to maintain her innocence. "Karen, I was just trying to improve the coffee quality for everyone." Office manager, you destroyed a $2,000 machine by ignoring safety warnings. Karen, how was I supposed to know it would break? The previous machine at my old job handled higher temperatures fine. Office manager, did you have permission to change the settings? Karen, I don't need permission to make coffee the right way. Management made their decision quickly, since Karen had deliberately caused the damage despite having no authority to modify the equipment. They would deduct the repair costs from her paycheck over several months. Karen, you can't do that. This is wage theft. Office manager, you can review the employee handbook section on property damage. You're responsible for repairs when you cause damage through unauthorized actions. Karen, I'm calling my lawyer. Office manager, that's your right. The video evidence and repair report are well documented. She threatened legal action for weeks, but nothing ever came of it. The paycheck deductions started the following month, about $160 per month, until the repair cost was covered. The new coffee machine came with a lockable admin panel. Only the office manager has the key now. There's also a laminated sign explaining that anyone who tampers with the settings will be held financially responsible for any damage. Karen eventually quit about 6 weeks later, citing a hostile work environment. Most of us were relieved. Her replacement is much more collegial and has never once complained about our coffee temperature. Story 2. I work part-time at a local grocery store while finishing my business degree. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and gives me flexible hours around my class schedule. I've been working retail for about 2 years now, so I thought I'd seen every type of difficult customer imaginable. I was wrong. The store I work at is pretty busy, especially on weekends when families do their weekly shopping. We get a mix of regular customers who are pleasant to deal with, and the occasional problem customer who makes everyone's day more difficult. Most of the staff has learned to handle difficult situations professionally, and our managers are generally supportive when things get out of hand. Last Saturday afternoon, I was working Register 3 during the weekend rush. The lines were long, and everyone was trying to get through their shopping as quickly as possible. I'd been scanning items steadily for about 3 hours when this woman approached my line with a cart full of groceries and a handful of coupons. She looked impatient from the moment she got in line, tapping her foot and checking her watch repeatedly. When she finally reached my register, she immediately started laying out her coupons on the counter and organizing them like she was preparing for battle. Me, good afternoon. Did you find everything you needed today? Karen, just scan my items. And be careful with those coupons. I spent a lot of time organizing them. I started scanning her groceries at my normal pace. I've been doing this job long enough that I can scan items quickly while still being accurate. It's actually something I take pride in, being efficient so customers don't have to wait longer than necessary. After scanning about half her items, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Karen, stop. You're scanning too fast. Me, I'm sorry. Karen, you're scanning too fast. You're trying to make me spend more money. I looked at her, genuinely confused. Me, ma'am, the scanner reads the same price regardless of how fast I scan it. Karen, don't lie to me. I know how these machines work. When you scan too fast, it doesn't register the sale prices. Me, that's not how it works. The scanner reads the barcode and pulls up the current price from our system. Karen, I want you to scan everything again. Slowly this time, and I want to see every price as you scan it. Other customers in line were starting to look annoyed. The line was backing up, and people were checking their watches and sighing. Me, ma'am, I can show you the receipt when we're done, and we can verify all the prices. Karen, no, I want to watch every single item get scanned. You cashiers are all trying to rip off customers. I took a deep breath and started scanning her remaining items one by one, pausing to show her the screen after each item. This took forever, and the customers behind her were getting visibly frustrated. When I finished scanning everything, her total came to $43.18. Me, your total is $43.18, and I can take those coupons now. She handed me her stack of coupons, but when I started looking through them, I noticed a problem. Most of them were expired. Not just by a few days, but by several months. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but these coupons are expired. This one expired in March, and this one expired in February. Karen, they're not expired. I just printed them last week. The expiration date is printed right here. This one says it expired on March 15th. Karen, that's impossible. You're lying to get out of honoring my coupons. I'm not lying, ma'am. I can show you the dates. Karen, I want to speak to your manager right now. You're trying to cheat me. I called for my manager over the intercom. While we waited, the line continued to back up, and other customers were getting more and more irritated. Customer behind her, can we please move this along? Some of us have other places to be. Karen, mind your own business. I'm being cheated by this incompetent cashier. My manager arrived a few minutes later. He's been working retail for about 15 years and has a reputation for being fair but firm with difficult customers. Manager, what seems to be the problem here? Karen, this cashier was scanning my items too fast to try to overcharge me, and now she's refusing to honor my valid coupons. Manager, I see. And you'd like me to resolve this? Karen, yes, I want my items rescanned properly, and I want my coupons honored. Manager, absolutely. I'll be happy to rescan everything for you. He took my scanner and started going through her items again, one by one. But this time, he was scanning them at full price without any sale discounts. Manager, let's see here. This bread is $4.99. This milk is $3.49. This cereal is $5.67. Karen, wait, those prices are higher than what she scanned. Manager, these are the regular prices. Your items were actually scanned with all the current sale prices and discounts already applied. Karen, that's not possible. Manager, it's very possible. Our cashiers are trained to scan efficiently while ensuring accuracy. The young lady here did everything correctly. He continued rescanning items, and Karen's total kept climbing higher and higher. By the time he finished, her total was $58.94. Karen, this is ridiculous. The total was lower before. Manager, that's because you received all applicable sale prices the first time. Now, about these coupons. He looked through her stack of expired coupons. Manager, unfortunately, I can't accept any of these. They're all expired by several months. Store policy doesn't allow us to honor expired coupons. Karen, but I demand you honor them anyway. Manager, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Would you like to pay the $58.94? Or would you prefer to pay the original total of $43.18 that you received with all the sale prices? The irony wasn't lost on anyone in line. By demanding that everything be rescanned properly, she'd actually made her total higher. Karen, this is highway robbery. I'm never shopping here again. Manager, that's your choice, ma'am. But right now, you need to decide how you'd like to pay. Karen, fine, I'll pay the original amount, but I'm reporting this store to corporate. Manager, feel free. They'll tell you the same thing I did about expired coupons and sale prices. She grudgingly paid the original total of $43.18 and stormed out of the store, muttering about dishonest employees and corporate conspiracies. After she left, my manager turned to me. Manager, you handled that perfectly. Don't let customers like that get to you. The next customer in line smiled at me. Next customer, that was the most entertaining grocery shopping experience I've ever had. She got exactly what she deserved. Other customers agreed. Well done. As I continued checking out the rest of the customers, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting entitled people dig their own holes deeper and deeper until they realize they're the problem. Karen learned the hard way that trying to game the system usually backfires, and that accusing honest employees of cheating rarely ends well. I doubt she'll be back anytime soon, which is probably better for everyone involved. Story 3. I work at a mid-sized accounting firm downtown, one of those places with about 50 employees spread across 3 floors. The office culture is pretty typical. Most people are friendly enough. We have the usual mix of personalities, and everyone generally tries to get along. We have a shared break room on each floor with refrigerators, microwaves, and tables where people eat lunch or take coffee breaks. I started here about 18 months ago as a junior accountant, fresh out of college with my finance degree. The pay isn't amazing, but it's good experience and the company offers decent benefits. Like most people my age trying to save money, I bring lunch from home almost every day instead of buying expensive downtown restaurant food. The break room setup works pretty well for most employees. People label their food with their names, store it in the shared refrigerators, and generally respect each other's belongings. We've never had major issues with theft or people taking things that don't belong to them. It's based on basic trust and workplace courtesy. About 4 months ago, things started changing. People began complaining that their lunches were disappearing from the refrigerators. At first, it seemed like isolated incidents. Maybe someone grabbed the wrong container by mistake or threw away something that looked old. But the pattern became obvious pretty quickly. It wasn't random mix-ups or accidents. Someone was deliberately taking other people's food, and they weren't bothering to replace it or apologize when they got caught. The thefts always happened during lunch hour when the break room was busy and people were coming and going. Whoever was doing it was smart enough to strike when there were lots of people around, making it harder to identify the culprit. I first noticed the problem when my leftover pasta disappeared. I'd brought a really good homemade lasagna that I was looking forward to eating, and when lunchtime came, it was just gone. No note, no explanation, nothing. I asked around to see if anyone had seen it, but nobody knew anything. Over the next few weeks, more people started reporting missing lunches. Sandwiches, salads, leftover takeout, even drinks were vanishing from the refrigerators. People were getting frustrated because they'd planned their meals and budget for bringing lunch, only to find their food stolen and have to buy expensive restaurant food instead. We tried different strategies to solve the problem. Some people started putting their names in bigger letters on their containers. Others tried hiding their food in less obvious spots in the refrigerator. A few people even started bringing lunch bags that they kept at their desks instead of using the shared fridges. But the thefts continued. Whoever was doing it seemed to have no shame about taking clearly labeled food that obviously belonged to other people. They'd take the good stuff and leave behind things like plain yogurt or basic sandwiches. The breakthrough came when my coworker from the marketing department noticed something interesting. She'd been keeping track of when her lunches went missing, and she realized there was a pattern. The thefts always happened on days when a particular person from the HR department was working in the office. That person was this woman in her 40s who worked in employee benefits. She had this entitled attitude about everything, complained about the coffee quality, monopolized the microwave during busy times, and generally acted like the office existed for her convenience. We started paying more attention to her behavior during lunch hours. She'd wander into the break room, look around to see if anyone was watching, then open the refrigerators and browse through other people's food like she was shopping at a grocery store. Karen, oh, this looks good. I wonder who brought this. She'd pick up containers, read the labels, and sometimes even smell the food to decide if she wanted it. When she found something appealing, she'd just take it and act like it was perfectly normal. Coworker, that's not your lunch. Karen, I know, but they probably won't mind sharing. We're all one big team here. Coworker, did you ask permission? Karen, I'll replace it later. It's not a big deal. But she never did replace anything. She'd eat other people's food, and then act confused when confronted about it, like she genuinely didn't understand why anyone would be upset. The situation was getting worse because people were starting to lose trust in the shared breakroom system. Some employees stopped bringing lunch altogether rather than risk having it stolen. Others were spending money they didn't have on restaurant food because they couldn't rely on their packed lunches being there when they needed them. Management was aware of the problem, but they couldn't do much without catching someone in the act. The break room doesn't have security cameras, and it's not practical to monitor food storage areas constantly. That's when my coworker from the IT department came up with a brilliant plan. He was tired of having his sandwiches stolen, so he decided to make a special lunch that would send a clear message to whoever was taking his food. He made what looked like a normal turkey sandwich: regular bread, lettuce, tomato, and what appeared to be mayo. But instead of mayonnaise, he'd mixed wasabi paste with a tiny bit of cream cheese to make it look like regular sandwich spread. Wasabi is that green Japanese horseradish paste that comes with sushi. It's incredibly spicy, much hotter than regular hot sauce or jalapenos. A little bit goes a long way, and too much can be overwhelming for people who aren't used to it. He carefully labeled the sandwich with his name and put it in the refrigerator where Karen usually browsed for her stolen lunches. Then he waited to see what would happen. Around 12:30, we heard commotion from the break room. Someone was coughing and making choking sounds, followed by the sound of running water and lots of movement. My coworker went to check on the situation and found Karen at the sink, frantically trying to rinse her mouth out with water. Her face was bright red, tears were streaming down her cheeks, and she was making these desperate gasping sounds. "Karen, water, I need milk. What was in that sandwich?" "It coworker, which sandwich are you talking about?" "Karen, the turkey sandwich. Something's wrong with it." "It coworker, you mean my turkey sandwich? The one with my name on it?" She couldn't even respond because the wasabi was still burning her mouth and throat. She kept drinking water and splashing it on her face. But wasabi heat doesn't go away quickly with just water. Karen ran to the bathroom and stayed there for over an hour. We could hear her in there running water, probably trying everything she could think of to stop the burning sensation. When she finally came out, her face was still flushed and her eyes were watery. She looked absolutely miserable, and everyone in the office knew exactly what had happened. "It coworker, maybe next time you'll think twice before taking someone else's lunch." "Karen, you did that on purpose. You could have seriously hurt me." "It coworker, I made my own lunch with ingredients I like. If you don't want to eat wasabi, don't steal other people's food." She tried to complain to management about the booby trap sandwich, but they weren't very sympathetic. The IT guy had every right to put whatever he wanted in his own lunch, and she had no business eating food that didn't belong to her. "Manager, the solution is simple. Don't take food that isn't yours." "Karen, but what if someone has allergies? What if something like this happens again?" "Manager, then people should stick to eating their own lunches instead of taking other people's food." The wasabi incident was the talk of the office for weeks. People thought it was hilarious that the lunch thief had finally gotten what she deserved. More importantly, the food thefts stopped completely after that day. Karen still works here, but she brings her own lunch now and keeps her hands off other people's food. Sometimes I see her looking longingly at particularly appetizing meals in the refrigerator, but she doesn't dare touch anything that isn't hers. The break room is back to being a place where people can trust that their food will be there when they need it. Story 4. I've been working at this big box home improvement store for about 3 years now, and I've seen some pretty wild stuff. I started here part-time while finishing my business degree, just needing something to pay the bills. The plan was to move on after graduation, but honestly, I ended up really liking the job. The pay is decent, my coworkers are great, and I've learned a ton about construction and home repair. I work in the lumber and building materials section, which means I spend a lot of time helping customers load heavy stuff. We've got all kinds of equipment to make it easier: hand trucks, dollies, And for the really big items, we have forklifts that only trained employees can operate. It's a strict safety rule. Customers are never allowed to use the powered equipment. We've all been through extensive training and certification just to operate them. The store takes safety really seriously, and for good reason. Those forklifts can lift thousands of pounds and move pretty fast. One mistake and someone could get seriously hurt or killed. Plus, the insurance liability would be huge if we let random customers operate heavy machinery. It's just not worth the risk. Most customers understand this when we explain it. Sure, some people get a little impatient waiting for us to help them load something, but they get it. We're usually pretty quick about it anyway. We want to keep things moving just as much as they do. Last Thursday afternoon, I was helping a contractor load some 2x4s when I heard shouting from the other end of the lumber yard. I finished up with my customer and walked over to see what was going on. There was a woman standing next to our forklift, arguing with my coworker. She was gesturing wildly at a stack of plywood and some furniture boxes nearby. Coworker: "Ma'am, I already explained that only employees can operate the forklift. I'll be happy to help you load your items as soon as I finish with this other customer." Karen: "This is ridiculous. I bought all this stuff, and now you're telling me I have to wait around for you to do your job. I know how to drive. I can figure out a forklift." Coworker: "It's not about driving skills, ma'am. It's company policy and a safety issue. These machines require special training and certification." Karen: "Policy, policy, policy. I'm a paying customer. I should be entitled to use whatever equipment I need to get my purchases." I walked over to help diffuse the situation. Me: "Is there a problem here?" Karen: "Finally, someone else. Your coworker here is refusing to let me use the forklift to load my furniture. This is discrimination against customers." Me: "Ma'am, we're not allowed to let customers operate our equipment for safety and liability reasons. But we're happy to help you load everything. What do you need moved?" Karen: "I don't need your help. I need to use that forklift myself. I have a big truck outside, and I know exactly how I want everything arranged." Me: "I understand, but that's just not something we can do. How about I grab the forklift, and you can direct me on exactly how you want things loaded?" Karen: "No, I want to do it myself. I'm perfectly capable, and I have rights as a customer." She started walking toward the forklift like she was going to climb on it. Me: "Ma'am, please step away from the equipment. You cannot operate store machinery under any circumstances." Karen: "Watch me." Before either of us could stop her, she climbed onto the forklift seat and started pressing buttons. The engine was already running from when my coworker had been using it earlier. Me: "Ma'am, get off the forklift immediately. You need to stop." The forklift lurched forward suddenly, and she clearly had no idea how to control it. She was turning the wheel frantically, trying to figure out which lever did what. Coworker: "Hit the emergency stop, red button on the dash." But she was panicking now and couldn't find it. The forklift jerked backward, then swung to the side. The forks were raised about 3 feet off the ground, and she was heading straight for a display of paint cans. Me: "Everyone get back. Clear the area." The forklift clipped the edge of the paint display, sending cans flying everywhere. She tried to turn away but overcorrected, and the whole machine started tipping to one side. Karen: "Help me. How do I stop this thing?" My coworker managed to reach the emergency shut-off switch, and the forklift came to a stop, tilted at about a 30-degree angle, but thankfully not completely tipped over. Karen was white as a sheet, gripping the steering wheel like her life depended on it. Me: "Don't move. Stay exactly where you are." We called for our supervisor and the store manager, who both came running. It took 3 of us and a second forklift to carefully right the machine and get her down safely. Manager: "What happened here?" Me: "The customer climbed onto the forklift without permission and lost control of it." Karen: "I just wanted to load my own furniture. Nobody told me it would be so complicated." Manager: "Ma'am, there are safety signs posted all over this equipment stating that only authorized personnel can operate it." Karen, I didn't see any signs. This is your fault for not training customers properly. Manager, we don't train customers because customers aren't supposed to use industrial equipment. By now, store security had arrived and was reviewing the security camera footage. You could clearly see her ignoring our instructions and climbing onto the forklift despite our protests. Security, ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us. You're being escorted off the property for safety violations and endangering other customers. Karen, this is insane. I'm the victim here. I could have been killed. Security, yes, ma'am, you could have. That's exactly why we have these policies. Manager, you'll also be receiving a bill for the damaged merchandise and equipment inspection costs. Karen, a bill? For what? Manager, paint cans, display materials. Plus, we have to have a certified technician inspect the forklift before it can be used again. That's about $800. Karen, I'm not paying for anything. I'm calling a lawyer. Security, that's your right, ma'am. But right now you need to leave the store. They walked her out while she ranted about customer rights and discrimination. The whole thing was captured on multiple security cameras, so there wasn't much room for argument. The next day, our manager told us that she'd called corporate to complain, but when they reviewed the footage, they actually commended our handling of the situation. Apparently her lawyer was her brother-in-law who told her she didn't have a case. We still laugh about it sometimes, especially the part where she claimed nobody told her forklifts were complicated.